to Sleepover Cinema, where we analyze the films that created the collective unconscious of those who are confused by Cinderella's preeminence in Disney's branding. I'm Hannah Leach, a writer, musician, audio producer, and staunch hater of the animal sidekick.
And I'm Audrey Leach, director, editor, producer, and a woman gunning for Drizella to get her moment in the spotlight. We are the sister duo also known as Two Pink Productions, and we haven't stopped thinking about these movies since we first saw them.
We're going to explore the good, the bad, and the nonsensical of the movies that first inspired our love for film in an attempt to answer the question, are these movies actually good? And at the end of the day, do we really care if they are?
Today we are talking about 1950's Cinderella, 2001's Cinderella II, Dreams Come True, and 2007 Cinderella III, A Twist in Time.
Take one wicked stepmother, two jealous stepsisters, one snobby house cat, one fairy godmother, and a bunch of mischievous mice. Then put them together and what have you got?
Take a look at that!
It's Walt Disney's classic, Cinderella.
It's such a surprise.
It's the love story to end all love stories.
A wonderful dream come true.
But that's just the beginning of the fun. The music.
Cinderella, Cinderella, night and day it's Cinderella. Take the fire, fix the breakfast, wash the dishes, do the mop.
The magic.
Bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. Look at what she did.
And the excitement.
On the stroke of 12, the spell will be broken.
Wait! Please wait!
Walt Disney Pictures proudly presents a motion picture whose time has come again. And it's coming for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Because even miracles take a little time.
Exclusively in theaters. Walt Disney's classic, Cinderella.
So Audrey had the genius idea to cover all three Cinderella movies in one go. I think that it was a revelation. I think this will be a fun and silly episode for us. If you love the direct-to-video sequels, if you hate them, if you don't really even know what they are, I think that this will be a good time.
I've noticed like an uptick in kind of like YouTube video essays or rankings about the straight to VHS basically or DVD Disney sequels, and so they've been on my mind. And just like this shitty animation
Yes.
There's so much to say, like truly.
We're going to say a lot of things on this podcast today, which, by the way, I just want to give a little thank you to everyone who responded so thoughtfully and kindly to our girls episode. We had a lot of fun making that episode, and we're kind of nervous when we made it because we know at least 10 years ago, talking about Lena Dunham really got people's goats, if you will. We got such a warm response, and I think people appreciated the depth that we brought to the conversation. So thank you, girlies, for listening. Once again, instead of a question for the culture, I just thought that it would be interesting to have a little educational moment on the Disney Princess brand. So, as you all know, Disney Princess is like a merchandising empire. You got Disney Princess lunchboxes and doll collections and big wheels and like anything you could possibly think of.
How did you think of Big Wheel?
I was thinking about like things that are unlikely to have a princess on them, and I was thinking of like bikes and like wagons and shit, but that definitely...
I did have... Do you remember my scooter?
Oh yeah, you did. Audrey had a sick princess scooter.
And a bike.
Here's the question with the bike.
Oh, wait, no. No, it wasn't the bike. I put Disney Princess stickers on the bike.
Yes, I was just about to say, that's what I remembered it as too. Wasn't it Cinderella, Belle, and Sleeping Beauty?
I think it was like Belle and Sleeping Beauty. I think I just had one on each handlebar, and the idea was that they were like my friends or whatever.
And that they would have a conversation.
Like I would talk to them. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Oh my God. Okay. Before I explain the actual origin of the Disney Princess brand, you really can't talk about any sort of Disney Princess think piece without bringing up the author Peggy Orenstein, who was kind of like the poster woman for like anti-princess feminism in the early 2010s. I feel like we've probably talked about her before on the podcast, but I read her book Cinderella Ate My
So did
Daughter
I.
in high school. Yeah.
I've read 2 of
And-
her books also.
Me too. But what was the other one?
Girls and Sex.
Yes, I read Girls and Sex also. It's very good, like, pop psychology, pop feminism stuff about, like, kids and teenagers, which is interesting. There was this very often cited article written by Peggy Orenstein in 2006 for the New York Times, and it's called What's Wrong with Cinderella? And this is kind of just like a side note because I find her feminism kind of funny nowadays, but here's a little excerpt. I watch my fellow mothers, women who once swore they'd never be dependent on a man, smile indulgently at daughters who warble, "So this is love," or insist on being called Snow White. That's me. I wonder if they'd concede so readily to sons who begged for combat fatigues or mock AK-47s. I worry about what playing Little Mermaid is teaching my daughter. I've spent much of my writing career about experiences that undermine girls' well-being, warning parents that a preoccupation with body and beauty is perilous to their daughter's mental and physical health. Am I now supposed to shrug and forget all that? If trafficking in stereotypes doesn't matter at 3, when does it matter? At 6? At 13? At 8? That's just a side note. Here's the actual origin of the Disney Princess brand. So this is a story told by Andy Mooney, who was this former Nike executive who was brought in like the early 2000s to rejuvenate the merchandising empire for Disney. So here is an excerpt from Peggy's article talking about how he came up with this idea. Mooney flew to Phoenix to check out his first Disney on Ice show. Standing in line in the arena, I was surrounded by little girls dressed head to toe as princesses, he told me last summer in his palatial office, then located in Burbank, and speaking in a rolling Scottish burr. Now we know he's Scottish. They weren't even Disney products. They were generic princess products they'd appended to a Halloween costume. And the light bulb went off. Clearly, there was a latent demand here. So the next morning, I said to my team, okay, let's establish standards and a color palette and talk to licensees and get as much product out there as we possibly can that allows these girls to do what they're doing anyway, projecting themselves into the characters from the classic movies. So they smelled money. And then there's just one last little detail here that I thought was funny. And if your TikTok algorithm is anything like mine, you may have seen TikToks about this specific thing I'm about to tell you about, but I think it's funny. The color selected to represent the princesses was Pantone Pink, number 241, Corona. And then these were the princesses selected: Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Ariel, Belle, Jasmine, Mulan, and Pocahontas. And then, to ensure the sanctity of what Mooney called their individual mythologies, the princesses never make eye contact when they're grouped. Each stares off in a slightly different direction as if unaware of the other's presence. The world building is really important all of a sudden, I guess. So,
I mean,
the reason
I think that's a smart, like, to start, I think that was a smart strategy because it would feel jarring to have them all looking at each other, but as time went on, obviously now we know that when they're grouped together, they will look at each other. That rule has totally been broken now, but I understand the thought process behind having them unaware of each other, and honestly, that's kind of works better for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I think I like that more, but go off.
I feel like, I don't know why it feels classy to me, but it feels kind of like elevated. Do you know what I mean?
It's like professional. It's like respecting the art that was the individual films.
Yeah.
And like that's what we're about to talk about a lot, is like how Disney will choose over and over again to ravage the art that was the original, like for the sake of capital only.
Right. So that's why I thought talking about the brand would be worthwhile, because the Disney Princess brand really would not have existed if it weren't for the success of the direct-to-home videos and vice versa. It's just, the capitalistic approach is just something to keep in mind going into this episode. That being said, let's get into the facts for Cinderella from 1950, the original Cinderella. So I put together like a light facts section for 2 and 3, just so we're oriented, but this is like the most interesting fact section. The original Cinderella was nationally released in America on March 4th, 1950. It is now rated G, and it was directed by 3 men, Clyde Geronimi, Wilfred Jackson, and Hamilton Luske. All of these men were very much like in Disney's stable. They did a ton of work for them, but altogether they are best known for Sleeping Beauty, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Cinderella, Mary Poppins, Pinocchio, and Snow White. But a little fun fact, Sleeping Beauty, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, and Cinderella all came out in the 1950s, which I feel like you can feel that when you watch them all. They kind of have like a similar quality to them. The story was written by Charles Perrault. When I looked up this man, I was not anticipating to see a European from 1650 or something, but that is what I found. And I put a picture of him in our notes. It's an oil painting of him.
I mean, that shouldn't have been surprising, right? Because, like, no, it's old.
I just like forgot to expect that for some reason. Like, I was very surprised to see that. I was just expecting like a black and white image of a man from the 50s. So anyway, Charles lived from 1628 to 1703. He was known as the pioneer of the fairy tale genre, and his first like approach to writing combined elements of folk tales with fantasy depictions of contemporary French society. The stories he's best known for are Bluebeard, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Puss in Boots, and Sleeping Beauty. And of course, he was a huge influence of the Brothers Grimm. And I thought the Brothers Grimm came before this time, but I guess they didn't. And then the other writing credits are Bill Peet and Erdman Penner, who really shared the same credits with the directors I mentioned above. And the songs were written by Mac David, Jerry Livingston, and Al Hoffman. Just a little bit of cultural context for when Cinderella came out. This was from thedisneyclassics.com. This is an excerpt of how they described it. The Walt Disney Studios were entering the silver age of their animation eras, trying to pick back up where they left off before the war, World War II. The films that were released during the wartime era, which included fun and fancy-free Make Mine music and the 3 Caballeros, God, I'm so white, did not perform the way the studio hoped. It was crucial that their next animated feature films were perfect and embodied the charm Snow White produced. They came up with 2 ideas, Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella. Walt had done Cinderella previously at his old Laugh-O-Grams studio, but he now had the tools and the money to make it into a big production. As work was being done on both these films, Cinderella progressed faster and ended up being released on February 15th, 1950. That's when the Boston release happened, and then the wide release was March 4th.
Okay, synopsis. We've got 3 versions and they're all long. Here we go. IMDb. Beautiful Cinderella, a young woman with a heart of gold, sees her world turn upside down when her beloved mother dies and her pained father remarries another woman, the wicked widow Lady Tremaine, the insufferable mother of cruel and jealous Anastasia and Drizella. As a result, things go from bad to worse, and before long, Cinderella finds herself at the mercy of the lady. Now doomed to serve her forever, shabby and neglected, Cinderella doesn't stand a chance of attending the king's royal ball. Of course, captivating the handsome prince is out of the question. As the night advances, will Cinderella ever find her own Prince Charming?
That is such a weird description.
Yeah.
They focus so much on the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I guess that is kind of like the main plot happens in the first 4 minutes. But,
yes. Wow. I'm pretty sure her dad dies too. They didn't even mention that.
Well, they said the wicked widow Lady Tremaine. So it is in there, technically.
Right. But was she a widow from her previous marriage? I would buy that.
Know. Then, Letterboxd. Cinderella has faith her dreams of a better life will come true. With help from her loyal mice friends and a wave of her fairy godmother's wand, Cinderella's rags are magically turned into a glorious gown and off she goes to the royal ball. But when the clock strikes midnight, the spell is broken, leaving a single glass slipper, the only key to the ultimate fairy tale ending. Rotten Tomatoes. With a wicked stepmother and 2 jealous stepsisters who keep her enslaved and in rags, Cinderella stands no chance of attending the royal ball. When her fairy godmother appears and magically transforms her reality into a dream come true, Cinderella enchants the handsome Prince Charming at the ball, but must face the wrath of her enraged stepmother and sisters when the spell wears off at midnight.
The fact that they somehow fit in enslaved, rags, and enraged is just like really intense.
Okay, taglines. There's like 10.
There's so many, and I love it when Audrey gets to read a lot of taglines.
Okay, the first one. This is the 1957 reissue. Wait, what year? So 7 years later?
Yes.
I guess? Okay. It's just simply the greatest love story ever told. We've read that one like more than once.
I know.
Greatest since Snow White. Okay, it's like the only since Snow White, so there you go. Next, we have full of fantasy, fun, and delight for all the world to enjoy. Then we have here to set a spark in your heart and a sparkle in your eye, the world's best loved story. ... told with Walt Disney's wizardry. Okay?
Ooh.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo, it's fun, it's magic. That's from the 1973 re-release. Then Once Upon a Time makes a timeless transformation. What does that mean?
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Then we have A Dream Come True, A Love Story with Music, For All the World to Love, and Midnight Never Strikes When You're in Love. Wow. That one was different.
I know that one doesn't make any sense if you don't know the context of the story, but I guess we're just assuming that people know the context. So that's good.
Yeah, I think they can assume.
Now, I didn't do the full cast because just simply no, but I did think that there were a couple little interesting tidbits here. So, Eileen Woods is the voice of Cinderella, and her whole thing is that she had a stage mom, and said mom pushed her into the spotlight really hard when she was a kid, which led to Ms. Woods having her first major radio show at 15, and then she starred on the Philco Hall of Fame, and eventually she got her own self-titled radio show, which was a very big deal at the time, obviously. And in terms of how she got the role, she said, "I didn't know Disney was casting for the voice of Cinderella. I found out indirectly by doing a favor for 2 friends of mine who wrote the music." So she was like in with the composers and sang on the demo tapes. And then they were like, "We need to find our Cinderella. We can't find her," which is ironic because that's very Cinderella of them. And they decided to go with Eileen. There's this video of her singing, I think, "A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes" on a like variety show, like a variety TV show, and she sounds amazing. And here's just like a little clip of it.
A dream is a wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep.
Okay, and then we have Eleanor Audley as Lady Tremaine, evil stepmother, who's also the voice of Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, which is very clockable if you know what you're listening for. And then we have Verna Felton as fairy godmother. She is the voice of Flora in Sleeping Beauty, the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland, and Aunt Sarah in Lady and the Tramp, and she was also in Dumbo. So she was one of their go-tos. And of course, all these women's headshots are like impeccable. If you want to see some old Hollywood glamour, give them a Google. You will not be disappointed.
Okay, budget for the original Cinderella was $2.2 million. The opening release gross is $10 million.
It was like that was the domestic gross for its first release. So it's been released and re-released like a million times, but at the first release, that's how much
when
it
does
made.
that end? When does that
I think like 3
end?
years later or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? That could be wrong. And then finally, worldwide gross $96,383,330.
Right, and that also doesn't count like the merchandising and like all the other ways they've made money from the movie. Okay, and now critic and audience opinions. The critic score for Cinderella on Rotten Tomatoes is 97%, and the critic consensus is the rich colors, sweet songs, adorable mice, and endearing, if suffering heroine make Cinderella a nostalgically lovely charmer. Audrey, would you like to read us these critic opinions?
Somebody said, some of the Tom and Jerry stuff goes a hair too long, but it's a small gripe compared to the artistry and storytelling on display here. A powerhouse. Somebody else said, sweet fairy tale classic for little princesses. And somebody else said, one of the most beloved of all animated features in the Disney stable. Cinderella was also the box office smash that saved Walt's studio during the precarious post-war period.
And then Common Sense Media. They said that this movie is appropriate for ages 5 and up, and they suggest that you talk to your kids about how many people are troubled by Cinderella as a passive heroine who meekly accepts her abusive situation and waits to be rescued. It's worth discussing with both boys and girls what some of her alternatives could have been, and making sure that they have some exposure to stories with heroines who save themselves. And then secondly, talk about how the women are depicted in the movie. What kinds of stereotypes about appearance and behavior do you notice? For younger kids, why are the stepsisters ugly and Cinderella pretty? What would the story be like if Cinderella was ugly? Common Sense Media knows how to write the pot stirring questions, especially that second one.
Yes.
Thank you to the moms and dads out there doing this work.
Many of my notes have to do with that topic.
I look forward
why
to
are
hearing
the
it.
stepsisters ugly?
Okay, and then audience score and average Letterboxd star rating. So the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 80%, and the Letterboxd average star rating is 3.5 stars. Some audience opinions. I don't remember there being this much mouse screen time when I watched this as a child. Next one. Every time I watch this movie, I'm surprised that it's mostly the story of a bunch of mice getting chased by a cat and then making a dress. And then lastly, Sunday morning movie, smiley face.
Okay, so our memories and when we first watched it, literally, I don't even remember a time before I've seen Cinderella. Like, it's, you were definitely watching it by the time I was born, so
yes.
I would think. So it's deep. It's a
yes.
deep cut. However, I think most children feel similarly about Cinderella in the original iteration, which is like, you might think she's pretty and you might enjoy having a doll of her, but she's probably not your favorite. Like,
yeah,
most children, she's not the favorite. I don't know if she was like the favorite of like any of the kids that I remember like being friends with.
Yeah, I feel like the hands down tied for most popular were Belle and Ariel.
Ariel, yeah. But I was indie because my favorite was Aurora, who does arguably even less than Cinderella does. So that's fun.
True.
I mean, she was my favorite just, I think, purely due to style, like artistic, the drawing. I really liked how she was drawn. I liked the curl, like the curly hair and like the way everything looked. And we probably will cover that movie at some point, but I know that it's like boring.
I don't know if people really feel that way.
Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty all have somewhat of a reputation for being boring because there is a lot of animal screen time and there's a lot of process screen time, like the animals doing something, making a dress, doing a system, like,
yes.
you know, like the dwarves cleaning or whatever.
That's true. And they were very like impressive at the time. So that's an important thing to keep in mind contextually. Okay, my Cinderella memories were that are that we had like a lot of Cinderella like action figures and toys. Like I remember I had this really sweet, this really sweet Cinderella castle Polly Pocket. This is classic me as a kid. There was this figurine of Cinderella sitting in the chair that she gets the glass slipper fitted. Like the chair that she's...
I remember that.
Do you remember this? Mm-hmm. But she was stuck in the chair, so she was always Cinderella using a wheelchair. And that was a character in the games as well. there was like a little cushion with like the world's tiniest little pinprick that would be like where her foot would go into the shoe, and her knee had like a little, it was like an opposable knee, and I would like play with the foot and like put it into the shoe. I remember that very clearly. There was also a wedding
I'm pretty sure that was
carriage.
my toy also.
It probably
so.
was, honestly. It probably was. But there was a wedding carriage. There was like a little gazebo.
Yeah.
We
I
should
remember
find
now.
that. It was sweet.
Yeah.
The merchandise. Also,
Costumes.
yes, I was Cinderella. I had like a Cinderella wedding dress when I was a little kid. It was like a pajama dress. Yeah, it was a pajama dress, but there was like a picture of like Cinderella in her wedding gown on the front, and I lived for that.
We had the blue pajama dress too.
We had the blue. I wish that was a thing still.
I know.
Like a pajama dress.
I mean, they weren't that comfortable though. That's the thing. Like you were clearly able to sleep in them, but they were not that comfortable.
I mean, it was about the look. It was about fashion over function, clearly.
I can think of 2 different Ariel ones that I had.
I remember one of them.
Yeah, one of them was like genuinely comfortable because it was just like a slip almost.
Oh,
it was like
I
a slip
remember
dress.
because we had matching ones.
And then I also had like a purple on top, sparkly sleeve Ariel one.
Yes, that one was really cute.
Oh, I had a Belle one too. I had a Belle pajama dress, and then we had that actual real Belle costume that was like insanely good.
Oh yeah. Yes, it was like cheap, but it had this really good like crinoline thing underneath that made it really big. There's some like iconic images of this
Yeah.
that maybe we'll save for a Beauty and the Beast episode, or maybe we won't. I was also Cinderella for Halloween in 1st grade, and I was lucky enough to be allowed to purchase the Disney store Cinderella Halloween costume. If you got a dress from the Disney store as a kid, like, you were loved and you were treated. And I was both of
I
those
never
things.
even got that. I guess I probably didn't ask.
Probably not. I got it twice. I got a Snow White one when I was older, too.
We had so much Disney merchandise in our house,
We did.
which is just funny thinking about like our parents' philosophies. Like our parents were not Disney adults by any means, not really, our mom, like, as we've discussed before, like, not into promoting gender roles, but also like when your child is obsessed with something and it's that easy to make them that happy, it's like really hard not to do it. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, also like,
oh my god, like the footage of us at like at the parade or meeting Disney princesses, like if it's really that in your grasp, like if you can economically pull it off, then like it would be worth it for you as a parent just to like watch your child be that excited, for better or for worse. Like,
yeah, I totally agree. Speaking of meeting princesses, that reminds me of 2 other Cinderella related memories, which is that I remember going to Disney World. I think I was maybe like 5 and Audrey was 3, and we went to like a Disney princess like breakfast, but it wasn't just princesses. There were also some princes there, and like Cinderella's prince like stepped up to the table, and I was like so stressed about it. Like I remember thinking this specifically, like I felt really pressured to talk to him. First of all, because when a character comes up to you, you like have to talk to them, kind of. And Mom and Dad
unless
from the
you're
beginning,
me.
Yeah, unless you're Audrey, you just cry instead.
no, I didn't cry when it's a person.
Mom and Dad were like,
anything.
ooh, here he comes, like the handsome prince, like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm so embarrassed. I hate this. And now there's all these pictures of me with him kissing my hand and being held by him and stuff. And he's really red. Like he looks really sunburnt in these pictures, or like he just got out of the shower or something. I like remember this experience like way too well because he was kind of like wet. It was just weird. So we absolutely have archival of that. And then the other thing, I think from that same day, we like went to go meet the fairy godmother. And I think that like one of the things with that character is that she's like allowed to be obnoxious is kind of my understanding. And that she was like, not actually hitting on dad, but like Disney World face
What?
character hitting on dad. Yeah, I remember
Well,
it
there
really
is
well.
there is video of meeting her.
Who's that over there, Han?
Hannah, are you going to get Cinderella's autograph too, sweetheart?
Yeah.
Come next to me. So what's your name, love? What is it? Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Can you make us kisses here?
Hannah, what did you do? Did you let Audrey wear your Cinderella dress for the very first time this morning?
I too.
Yeah, and you have on a high heel shoe.
I'm pretending we are twins.
Well, you are sisters. You're both beautiful princesses. Show us your new beautiful dress.
Me?
That's Cinderella.
Daddy.
Oh, you're dancing. That's beautiful.
I just had like extreme stranger anxiety and separation anxiety and just like
Audrey was losing it.
I definitely, you can tell on my face, like meeting some of the princesses that I am loving it, like internally, like I am enjoying it, but I'm just so shy that like I just look a little lost, I guess.
A little timid. To be clear, though, and I think the majority of people listening know this, Audrey was like an insanely cute child. Like a really, really cute child. And so the shyness worked for her because she was really cute.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can learn when it is an advantage to you as a child and when it's not. But like mostly I just came by it honest. Like I really came by it honestly and like was scared a lot.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I'm sure there's more Cinderella memories than that, but we have some films to get to. So you can watch all 3 of these movies on Disney Plus. And if you're me, you can watch them at 2 times speed with the add-on Speed It Up to your Chrome browser. Would recommend.
I only watched them sped up because of having to record this. I think if I was genuinely going for a rewatch, I would just watch them.
The rewatch? Yes. Okay. Ignore me. Okay, we will be right back. Okay, hello. It is time to talk about 1950s Cinderella, followed by Cinderella II Dreams Come True, followed by Cinderella III A Twist in Time. So we got to get right into it. Cinderella. I have one small note for the very beginning. The pink cursive font in the opening credits is so good. It's also very Two Pink Productions. Love the font.
Yeah, I wrote like nobody takes the time to make artful credits anymore. Like they're like paintings, you know, like they're just so well done and well thought out. And I was like, yeah, like I want to do credits like this. It would not even be that hard to digitally replicate something really similar, but like it'd be even cooler if you did have it like an artisan, if you will, like create the actual physical thing that you can use. I really enjoy how like 50s sounding the vocals are and how like the arrangements of the songs are so like obviously they're of their time, but like even like the quality of the vocal recording, like that's not something that can be manufactured. Like it's just very like authentic.
The things I liked the most about Cinderella 1950 once it was done were the vocal arrangements. They're so cool and so fun to listen to, especially if you're a singer. You're like, oh, that's not a choice that's predictable. Like they're very artfully arranged. Also, Eileen Woods' voice is just very 50s, like crooner woman, which what's not to love with that? So the music is beautiful. And then also just the like the art of the landscapes and like the cityscapes and stuff, it's very specific and lovely.
What I was appreciating about that and like the scenery and the settings is that this was a time in animation where the priorities were entirely different. Like, they are willing to be abstract in the way that they represent. Like, for example, there was this one shot that made me think of this, which was like the entry of the ball, where they have just this tiny black silhouette figure of like a couple. It's just like a cutout almost. It looks just like a cutout, and it's just slowly moving up the steps. It's just like a silhouette of a couple slowly moving up the steps. And it's like, that is something that Disney is not willing to do anymore because they prioritize realism over the art of animation. Actually, I think at the Oscars this past year, Guillermo del Toro was talking about like the degradation of the genre of animation.
Animation is cinema. Animation is not a genre. And animation is ready to be taken to the next step. We are all ready for it. Please help us. Keep animation in the conversation.
Yeah, it's not a competition to see who can animate the most real toucan. Like, everybody's got a...
Right.
Like, there's a reason why animation can be more impactful than a live-action film, and they've, like, lost sight of that.
The most realistic toucan competition is, like, so real.
Yeah.
It's so real.
Like, no one
that's
cares.
how you end up with live-action Lion King.
Exactly.
Like, some of the specific aesthetic things I wrote down that I really loved. The glowing castle on the night of the ball is obviously beautiful. The courtyard is very beautiful. The water. And when they open up the carriage and it's like hot pink lined, what gay man thought of that? And how can we pay tribute to him? It looks so good.
I mean, the way that they draw Cinderella is so, like, male gaze, like, in a lot of ways. It feels like an ode to Marilyn Monroe in some ways. They give her the lashes.
And the voice.
Yeah.
The voice is a very specific choice.
The ball? Oh, but I'm not.
Of course you are. But we'll have to hurry, because even miracles take a little time.
Miracles?
Mm-hmm.
Are the mice kind of just stand-ins for... I don't want to keep using the male gaze, but, like, kind of, like... like, you know, like, when the animal sidekicks are, like, in love with her all the time, it's like...
Yeah.
Okay.
They're simping.
Yeah.
As they say. Yes. I think I actually wrote that down somewhere. I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like on one hand, it's like the whole thing about Disney princesses is that it's like you can't help but be in love with them because they're the ideal of beauty and grace and whatever. I think that you have a good point, though, which is like
they're like the
irresistibleness.
Stand-in. They're like, to me, I was thinking of them as like the stand-in for the animator. Like this is how you're supposed to view her. They're telling through the animals, they are telling the audience how to view the character. Like,
yeah, you're right. You're definitely right.
Although I was thinking about that, and then I realized there are also female mice who are in love with her too. So
it's a gay commune.
Yeah.
All for Cinderella. Okay, I have some small logistical tidbits about these mice. My first thing I wrote is, why do those birds have hats?
I love that. I love that they have hats.
But then immediately I
So
find
cute.
out it's because she gives them hats.
Yeah.
Because she tries to give unfortunately the fat mouse a shirt and it's Gus, and it's too small for him, and I'm like, why can't she just make him a bigger shirt? Because clearly she's capable of making outfits for these tiny animals.
Cinderella does not care about size inclusivity.
She makes couture and couture only.
Sample size only.
And Gus can get fucked. At least he can force himself in. I want to have a bed as fancy as Lucifer's cat bed.
Yeah.
That was a core
Literally
memory for me
fuck
too.
Lucifer and fuck all of the animal interaction sequences.
I know, they're so long.
It's like a huge part of the movie. Like if you actually combined all the minutes, it's probably like 25 to 30%, maybe more. I do want to talk about with the stepsisters though, and obviously we will be returning to this topic because turns out they're the main characters of this movie. So in the animator's eyes, laugh lines are what make you ugly.
Right. And a swirly nose.
Yeah. I do.
And a large bustle.
And like not giving them lashes and like making their eyes more circular, like all that sort of thing. But like,
yeah,
laugh lines, specifically laugh lines. I think that has a serious hold on real women. That it was like subconsciously suggested through stuff like that laugh lines.
Are you talking about
these ones? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not eye ones, but like mouth ones are ugly, or like because like in photo editing, for example, they always minimize these lines. And that's why, people like lighting that's really bright in front of their faces and not above, because then you're not, it like flattens everything. Why laugh lines of all things?
I mean, I guess it's like a youth thing, but I don't know. Maybe it's any physical indication that a life has been lived.
Yeah, right? Like you can't just, if you're not like porcelain.
This is my question. When Cinderella leaves the ball, the level of urgency to find her is unreal.
Yeah.
When those guards are like coming out of the gate and they're like red and black silhouettes, and then they're like galloping around trying to find her, and the Grand Duke is like screaming at 10 out of 10 like, find her. And I'm just like, what are you gonna do if you find her? Like, inseminate her on the spot? Like, I don't understand what this urgency is, because this whole thing is weirdly about the king wanting grandchildren in this creepy way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of my notes. Is I quoted the line, he says, "There must be one who would make a suitable mother and a suitable wife," and like that is like his main statement. Do you wish that So This Is Love was sung diegetically, yes or no? Or is it, or no, because it's like her thoughts?
Well, he sings too, though.
It's their thoughts. It's both of their thoughts.
I think I would like to see it sung diegetically only to see the prince say something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he says nothing. I want to give a shout out to the acting performance given by the evil stepmother's nostrils.
Yeah.
The main characterization of her are those pitch black gigantic nostrils.
And back then they used a lot of, as you know, I'm just saying in case somebody doesn't know, they used a lot of in-person models for like the movement, and you can really tell for Lady Tremaine that they are basing this off of somebody's exact movement. I'd say that it's most clear for Cinderella and Lady Tremaine that like they're really using the live models and like the dancing, because sometimes you'll just see certain shots where you can tell it's like a drawing overlay rather than like a free-handed thing. When the clock strikes midnight and he's like, "Why do you have to go?" Her excuse is that she hasn't met the prince yet. That's what she says. She goes, "Oh, I haven't met the prince yet." And so I like never clocked that mentally.
Oh.
Like her real reason is that she's got to get the fuck out of there because she's about to turn back to raggedy bitch. But the reason she tells him is, "I haven't met the prince yet," which gives her like a new edge of like innocence, you know what I mean? Because it's like she's so clueless that she doesn't even know that he's the prince. And I'm like, come on, like you're a pygmy, like you know who that is. Let's be real.
She knows how to play the game. She's probably been sitting in her bedroom premeditating this for weeks.
Yeah, I'm like, you live in a kingdom and you don't know what the prince looks like. Okay.
I mean, It's before mass media. It could be true.
It could be, but like I just don't buy it. Like she's the one who's sitting around like, I've always dreamed of a fantasy.
You're right. It is
no, like Cinderella's
unlikely.
plotting. Cinderella's got this like, she's got this like innocent reputation, but if you think about her actions, like what she's actually doing, and it only becomes more that way in like the third movie, where it's like
so true.
You're fully just plotting like you want the money, and like I don't blame you, but you can't really say you love this man. Like you danced with him once.
You're right.
So
you're definitely right. I do want to say that even though we're defending the stepsisters for their ugliness, there are some genuinely
terrifying,
really funny moments
yeah.
of them when the Grand Duke walks in and she's like, "Your Grace." Like that made me laugh.
Yeah. Well, like clearly Disney understands that like the stepsisters are like kind of all they have with Cinderella, like the movie, because they're the highlight for the entertainment aspect. Like you're not even getting good at romance. Like it's just so fast.
I will say though, like thinking about the fact that the whole thing was like created by and executed by men, when the things that are icky are as subtle as that kind of facial expression, like, oh, like they really don't like women.
It's like the women, but also any like worker who's a man has like the most like dopey presentation.
Right.
Which was common back then. Like, I mean, literally the footmen and the guy who, like, they're animals. Like, they were animals turned.
The coachman?
Yeah, they were animals turned into workers. So it's like that kind of gives you like a mental idea of like how they value people like that.
That's true. That's a good point. My final note for Cinderella is that the experience I had while watching it was one of those things where you hear it and you're like, oh, I have this memorized in some core part of my brain.
Yeah, me too.
But
you forgot about it.
Yeah, but I didn't feel any like joy from it, you know?
I get joy from like key shots, the water, her touching the water. Like I get enjoyment out of that. I get a lot of enjoyment out of the animals tying that bow. And like, of course, the dress transformation moment, that's key. But other than that, like the story doesn't hold warm and fuzzy feelings. And I just have to mention, this plot is going at breakneck speed. I could not believe where the story was at when there was 15 minutes left in the movie. And that's with credits. Like, I genuinely could not believe she, like, gets locked in that room by Lady Tremaine. And I looked, and there was 15 minutes, including credits, left at that moment. I was like, I wrote, the pacing of this movie is insane. Like, she's about to get her ass beat for going to the ball with 15 minutes left.
And also, like, they spent the rest of the runtime just like animating stupid mice running around doing nothing.
Like the mice are the ones who get her out of the damn room. Like, and that's basically all that happens.
Okay, so now moving into Cinderella II, Dreams Come True.
It was the moment that changed her life forever, taking her to a place she'd never been, to a life she dared only dream about. Discover what comes after Happily Ever After as Walt Disney's most enchanting fairy tale continues. Cinderella II, Dreams Come True. The life of an ordinary girl becomes extraordinary in an all-new full-length adventure.
I have to try this my way.
Featuring your favorite characters from one of Disney's greatest treasures, Cinderella.
Maybe it's time to start following your heart.
Now this is more like it.
And a new rendition of the Oscar-nominated classic Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, together with 3 brand new songs. The magic lives on.
Someday I'll get this princess thing right.
I think that day is today.
Cinderella II, Dreams Come True.
Cinderella II: Dreams Come True came out in 2001, and the synopsis is, as a newly crowned princess, Cinderella quickly learns that life at the palace and her royal responsibilities are more challenging than she had imagined. In 3 heartwarming tales, Cinderella calls on her animal friends and her fairy godmother to help as she brings her own grace and charm, I don't know about that, to her regal role, and discovers that being true to yourself is the best way to make your dreams come true. And what you can easily realize, like, after watching this, when you see the credits, is that this very much feels like 3 distinct stories put together, and they actually were written by different people. Like, each story had different writers. It's kind of like 3 episodes of a TV show put together.
There's one tagline, and there's one notable casting choice, Audrey.
So the tagline is, "The magic didn't end at midnight." Stupid.
Ooh.
And then Holland Taylor plays Prudence. Is that the, like, woman worker?
The woman who says it's just not how things are done.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's Holland Taylor.
When I saw that character, I was like, oh, they just had to add a woman worker.
Right. There has to be an evil woman staff member.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Okay, so then when we get into critic and audience opinions, the critic score is 11%. And there is no critic consensus, but just the critic opinion that summed it all up the best was this. If Disney's Cinderella proved that a dream is a wish your heart makes, then Cinderella 2 proves that a nightmare is a wish a studio's wallet makes. Damn. Okay, so this movie is pretty much universally hated on and dismissed as bullshit. Something to keep in mind.
And it is.
The audience score... It is. The audience score for this movie is 32%, and the Letterboxd average star rating is 2.5. That being said, there are some defenders out there. I found one person that wrote this really defensive review, and I'm just going to read some highlights really fast. Listen, I'd understand being disappointed seeing it in theaters, but honestly, this is a wonderful movie to cozy up with. If you enjoy these characters and enjoy more everyday applicable aspects of their personal growth and gentle or nuanced moments, this is the movie for you. Okay, I'm just going to read this one little chunk because I find this to be really funny. So this movie allows for personalities for Cinderella and the prince. They portray their relationship in movie as so healthy and gentle and loving and mutually supportive. And I think it provides children with a great example for what relationships post-marriage should look like after all the rush of wedding and honeymoon. The prince looking around for his wife like a lost puppy after showing up to a banquet, only to light up on seeing her, and the way they quietly stand together smiling to each other in the background of other happenings is just adorable and worth so many rewatches. She also goes on to talk about how the movie explores themes of toxic parents pitting their children against each other, and much, much more. So I'm glad that this movie did all that for this reviewer, but to the general populace, it did not.
She does have a point down here with watch the second one after the third one, because there is a major part of the second movie that is not continuous into the third.
I think I first watched this movie right when it came out, because I remember sequels to the classiques seeming like a really big deal at the time because Disney knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And really the main thing I remember is that Anastasia gets, like, in my mind, it was like Anastasia got a makeover, which isn't exactly true. But the song that plays in the background when it's like, it's what's inside that counts.
It's what's inside that counts.
And specifically the line, it's a pain in the face to get you a man, has haunted me, I think, since I first saw this movie.
I got style and grace, but it's a pain in the face gets you a man.
What's strange about these Cinderella sequels is that we had seen them both, but I don't know, like, where or how or anything. Like, maybe they were library rents, or they were...
I think
Obviously, right off the bat, we're getting a severe drop in animation quality. Duh, that just makes sense. It's just so jarring to literally back to back go from 1950s, this is sort of like a high art old fairy tale, like stylistic animation it's not too deep, but it's beautiful situation, to Cinderella needs to stand her ground and stand up against table settings at the royal party. Like, what in the world? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Right. Because, like, the whole thing with Cinderella in this movie is that she is now in the role of, like, a princess, and she has to, like, learn how to be that. And Prince Charming is, again, pretty absent for this whole thing. What I thought was, like, especially funny, though, is that they tried to make the lesson of Cinderella II, like, be yourself. But here's the thing. When she, like, goes behind that little dressing room wall divider thing and comes out back in her, like, indentured servant outfit,
Yeah.
I was like, I wrote, her changing back into her peasant servant outfit isn't her owning who she is. That's just her being oppressed again. That's not empowerment. It doesn't matter what you wear, Cinderella. Like, it's about what's in the heart. Like, it's not
Isn't that the whole point of this whole thing?
Yes. And you know what we don't need? A love interest for a fucking mouse.
I was gonna say, when they called her Mary, I wrote, who the fuck is Mary?
Yeah, like, what?
Like, she's suddenly named. And that leads me to another thing, which is that for some reason they feel the need to tie up every single story in this thing with some sort of kiss or some sort of romantic closure. And I don't care for it.
The use of, like, pop songs is crazy.
I know.
Like, they are using pop songs as scoring, but, like, nobody's singing it. So Cinderella II is still not a musical. Like,
yeah,
mostly it's not.
It's Tarzan.
Yeah, like, they just keep playing these really weird, like, half musical theater, half pop songs, like, but, like, we don't know who it is that's singing them. But really, the main event of this movie is the, what's-her-face storyline.
Anastasia.
Yeah, the Anastasia plotline where they give her a baker love interest and Cinderella helps her woo him or whatever, and then it's a lot.
He also says like 4 words in the entire thing. But you know what? How many movies are there where women only say 4 words?
Like only the women are saying things and the men are just kind of there.
Right. Like, we'll take that for 2001, 100%. I wrote this down about the Anastasia plotline. You know when she thinks that the baker is, like, in love with another woman, and then she runs to the fountain and, like, throws herself over it and is, like, crying?
Yeah.
I said, if you're leaning over a fountain like that in a Disney movie, you're officially a sympathetic character.
Yeah, like, there's just... It's, like, a common symbol.
What would you know? You're beautiful. It's always been easy for you. If I weren't so clumsy and plain.
If there's ever a moment where you have thrown your body down to the ground and your head is, like, your face is hidden and you're like...
Yeah, like, you are the main character now, always and forever. Especially, and only women do it, obviously.
Do we ship or no?
I think I ship. Why not?
I mean, it is a oddly... It's not actually doing anything real. Also, the suggestion that both of these people are ugly and bad.
Right.
Like, she might be
also,
rich,
like,
but she's ugly. He might be poor, like,
and fat,
but
he's nice.
But he's
that
nice.
Was the weird
it's like,
thing.
What the fuck is going on?
There's, like, a really extreme double standard with fatness also in this movie. Like, the baker's fat, but he's still attractive or whatever, but not so attractive that Cinderella would want him.
Yeah, like, it's like they're like each other's league or something. Like,
right.
It's weird to think about. Like, also, I mean, to be real, why would Cinderella ever find the goodness in her heart to, like, help these bitches? Like, they are
it doesn't
mean.
make any sense. Yeah, doesn't she have, like, more fun things to do?
Her being that beautiful still and always did, like, was her power over them. And that was something that they couldn't take away from her. And so she always was, like, kind of high and mighty in a sense. Like,
that's true, actually.
It's like... They might have like economic power over her or like control over her daily activities, but like she's gonna go to the ball and literally snag the prince. So she knew that if she made it to that ball, that it was like curtains.
It was curtains. Yeah. I mean, we're in a monarchy led by... We're in a monarchy led by these men. One of them is weird and thirsty. Let's not forget that she kissed him on the head at her own wedding. And he was like all bashful about it. Like, good God.
That's such a good other example of like what I was saying with the animators being the animals. They're also the like dopey character. Like it's always the bashful, weird vibes.
This movie insists upon, I know I already talked about the romance, but like this movie insists upon like straight romance in the way that people think that like drag queens insist upon being in drag.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, and what doesn't make sense is people being homophobic, because it's like your kids are not being indoctrinated. I know this is not a new take, but like if you're not sold about the straight indoctrination, watch Cinderella II Dreams Come True and then come back
and revisit that thought. And the way that he just ditches her ass at the castle at the beginning and he's like, go figure out how to
be a princess. She's like, right.
And she's like, okay, well, yesterday I was a scullery maid and now I'm doing this. So
Cinderella 2 sucks. We knew that already.
It's bad.
And now we're moving on to Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, which came out in 2007.
What if, bibbidi, bobbidi, boo, the magic was taken away?
Magic? How very interesting.
What if
Your Grace, please wait.
the slipper didn't fit?
I danced with the prince. That was my slipper.
Could the dream still come true?
Bibbidi bobbidi boo! Reverse the moon and sun. Turn back tide and time. Unravel Cinderella's happily ever after.
Walt Disney Pictures presents Cinderella 3.
The synopsis is as follows from Rotten Tomatoes. On the first anniversary of Cinderella's marriage to Prince Charming, her stepsister Anastasia finds the fairy godmother's wand in the forest. Cinderella's cruel stepmother, Lady Tremaine, uses it to reverse time, making the famous glass slipper fit Anastasia's foot before Cinderella has a chance to try it on. No longer retaining any memory of who Cinderella is, the prince prepares to marry Anastasia.
Taglines. What if the magic was taken away? What if the slipper didn't fit? What if? Literally, what if?
Okay, this makes so much sense. The script was written by Dan Berenson, who wrote Teen Beach Movie 2, Camp Rock 2, Wizards of Waverly Place movie, Hannah Montana the movie, Cheetah Girls One World, and Twitches 2.
Oh my God, right. Bitch. Give him a sequel and he will do his worst. I'll tell you that.
Give him a sequel and he will do the best he can with the material.
I mean, I almost think this might be his strongest work out of those options. I don't hate this.
I don't hate it
It's
either.
entertaining.
I checked who wrote it specifically because this movie came out in 2007, and as I was watching it, I was like, this feels very Enchanted-ish to me. Like, and Enchanted also came out in 2007.
Yeah.
So Disney was kind of in this era of
Self-aware.
like making fun of its own things, which like I think we've now
grown out of.
We've grown out of it, and now we're almost like to the opposite end of it, which is like very seriously reinterpreting all their own stuff.
Yeah.
So for Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, the critic score is 75%. There's no critic consensus, but I took two little opinions that I thought were representative. Sharp direction, a healthy attention to detail, and warm voice work lift this sequel away from mediocrity at every turn. And then, all in all, Cinderella 3 makes a fairly good showing for itself, insofar as these direct-to-video affairs go. I also forgot to say, maybe we put this at the beginning of the second half, both of these movies were very much byproducts of the Michael Eisner era of trying to squeeze every dollar out of these IPs. So
yeah. These like come at a time where Disney was needing that cushion, like that cushion of money to like bring them back up to a stable place. And when they figured out that this worked like a charm, they had no reason to not keep doing it. And it's the same thing they're doing now with the live action remakes. It's something that can keep them afloat, even though the product has so many pitfalls.
The audience score and the Letterboxd average star rating for Cinderella 3 is 61% and 3.1 stars. And I just plucked a couple audience opinions. I know. I think everyone was really excited about it after the second one. So I plucked a couple audience opinions. The first one. This movie shouldn't have been made. It should have been the second movie. The second movie should have been the third movie. Cinderella's stepsister wanted true love in the third movie. She didn't have anyone, so in the second movie she finds love. See what I am trying to tell you? It's logic that it will be the other way around.
Yes.
Well, and then 3 stars. It is the okayest movie.
I really think that for continuity reasons, in the second movie, we just gave Anastasia her moment. There is no reason why it could not have been Drizella
Nope.
in the third one.
No.
And not only that, you can have, so say Anastasia had her like nice girl transformation already.
Right.
Now she can help. Like she's like on Cinderella's side to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Like they could have done that.
Right.
But it really, what it shows to me is that the second movie is not to be taken as canon. Like it's like 3 TV episodes pushed together. Like these are not, it's not real. It's
just like fanfic.
Yeah, it's like fanfic that just so happens to actually be produced by Disney. What the craziest, most jarring thing about the third movie is that it is a musical.
I know.
Some of the songs weren't that bad.
What a perfectly perfect life. It's a fairy tale come true. I'm a princess and a wife, all because I fit a shoe. When I
just... Some of them were kind of hitting in like a 90s Disney way. Not that I can like really remember any melodies now. I can't. But like...
Yeah.
Giving the stepsisters and Cinderella an I Want song in the third movie is so strange, and the only way that they could have given Cinderella that little I Want moment is to have it go back in time because she couldn't possibly want anything else. Now that she's princess, there's nothing else for her to I want, is there?
Yeah, you're so right, because it's happily ever after, so she can't have any deep yearnings.
No, and I feel like that's maybe even where this concept came from, was like that inability the inability to think of something that she could I want post being married. Like, what are they gonna have her be like, I want to have a baby? Like, what are they gonna do?
Ooh, I mean, they could have. Or she could have been like, I want a real mother. I want real parents.
That would be too real of a theme. Like, they're not equipped for that.
They can't get specific enough.
They can't cover like a post-marriage, happily ever after like topic because they don't want children to like realize that, I guess.
Right. It doesn't align with the goals of a capitalist patriarchy to suggest that. I also just have to say about the opening, I could not believe and I know when she's like narrating and then the title screen comes up and she like looks over her shoulder and like winks and laughs.
It's crazy.
Do you remember the story of a girl who lived a life of cinders and how she found true love because she kept a beautiful dream in her heart? Of course, it helped that she had mouse friends who could sew and a fairy godmother who could do wonders with pumpkins. Well, that girl is me.
I was like, huh? This is so different.
It's such a change in tone, like even from the second one. So truly, it is shocking. It's a shocking shift. Can you believe her feet are supposed to be size 4.5?
I know. I was like, honestly, I love that they put those details in though, because it's very Disney in 2007, but I think they're funny, you know? Like, she's really little.
4.5.
I love that they
That's
talk
like a
about
baby.
that.
That's not that's not an adult.
I do have a logistical gripe though, which is like, okay, so the fairy godmother, the only thing making her the fairy godmother is the wand?
Yeah.
That seems
pretty
like
fucked.
anyone could be the fairy godmother.
I was thinking about that too, because I was like, so tell me how Lady Tremaine knows these spells. Like, how does she know? She symbolized like a wealth of knowledge to Cinderella, like initially.
Yeah.
Like, she's like the wise, like, not like sort of a witch, sort of a mother figure.
She's a good witch, yeah.
Yeah, she's like nice grandma who's gonna fix all your problems.
I feel like they never speak again, except for the very beginning of the third.
Yeah, they don't. They don't talk in the second one either. And you know why? Because Cinderella cannot have a mother. They will just not let her have a mother, will they?
No. She's not allowed. She can be the only girl in the story, unless they're ugly. Then they
can be there, and they can only be shat on. What pissed me off in the third one is that they like have little flashback moments from the first movie, because they're like showing how they're going back in time and stuff, but they had to like do like the shitty animation overlay of the original shots. Like, they wouldn't just use the original shots.
Well, because they had to animate them getting ripped apart.
Well, yes, but there was some that were still like the ripped apart ones, yes, but there was the shot of her touching the water was there, and that was the same.
Right.
And they just had to like make it shittier looking, because it would be too jarring if
It
they
would
showed
stand out too much.
how nice it looked.
Here's my question. When Cinderella gets like dragged away by the cops, do they deport her? Why did she get on a boat?
Oh yeah, that part was so funny. Like,
they're like, move along, and then her hair is like whipping around in the wind.
I swear to God, I like missed the logic jump from like,
I missed it too.
From like, I was so confused also, because shouldn't she be at home? They go back in time, and the first moment that they're placed back into is like the Duke guy showing back up to like try on the shoe. So they're all at home, and then, you know, why would they, as women who are threatened by Cinderella's beauty, why would they bring her along to the castle once Anastasia has been accepted by the prince?
That is very true.
Like,
that is very true.
And then later, like, Prudence tells her to, like, start cleaning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the fuck
also,
do you have like a for hire? You have like a freelance scullery maid.
She's on retainer.
Like,
I love how much you've said scullery maid in this episode. Yeah, you know, and if the stepmother secretly kind of knew, that makes even less sense.
Yeah, like if she knows the real tea of like how she's like creating revisionist history, she's like creating a butterfly effect, and she knows that, then you should definitely lock her up and definitely not let her come to the castle to freelance clean.
Yeah. Also, why... Okay, and I know it's like so stupid to get into the weeds about like time travel logic, but like Cinderella and the stepsisters and stepmother all know that they time traveled.
No. So I was thinking about this. Only the stepsisters and Lady Tremaine know they time traveled. I thought about this a lot. So Cinderella only knows that it is her fate to be with the prince because of the one night of experience she had with him the night before. That is the only thing informing her drive to go talk to him and be like, hey, it's me again. Hey. She's like, hey, it's me. What's up? And he like can't remember her but he knows that, like, it doesn't feel right with Anastasia, but it's, like, fully, like, a sense memory thing. Like,
right.
Like, he keeps, like, touching her hand or whatever, and he's like, you're, like, great, but I'm just, like, not into you like that.
Yeah. He also, we can't understate how much they, like, overcompensated for him not having a personality in this one.
Yeah, they, like, himbo-fy him in this one.
It would appear that more than one girl actually fits the slipper. I'm very sorry to have inconvenienced you. Why don't I have the Grand Duke escort you home safely?
You know, and it was before people were even meme baiting,
yeah,
which I appreciate. It was just genuinely making a choice instead of being like, how can we get gay people to retweet this?
Right. I love how it's like Prince Charming is like really nice to the ugly stepsister. Like,
right, like so respectful.
He's just like, you know what? Like, I respect you and your livelihood, and like you're a great woman, but like for some reason,
like you gotta go.
It's just not hitting, and I can't explain it, but it's just not. And then Lady Tremaine fully transforms Anastasia into a Cinderella clone, so that she can trick the prince into thinking that he's married to the right person. That's crazy. I mean, Lady Tremaine will stop at nothing.
No, she and her nostrils are ruthless.
She's not afraid to literally change her daughter entirely.
And okay, when that happened, I wrote down, what's even the point of it at that point? It's just like pure spite. Like, you're not even gonna benefit from that. It's not even your daughter anymore.
Well, it is, but it's like her we have to assume that like her insides are Anastasia's insides.
They are, but like, how does that benefit the stepmother? It doesn't.
Because if they get married, well, yeah, that's actually a whole other question, because Prince Charming is not under the like he's not like, oh, I'm marrying Anastasia with Cinderella's outsides. He's like,
right,
I'm marrying a different woman. Like, you're not gonna get the dowry, Lady.
No,
like Lady
like,
Tremaine.
It's a long game.
Lady Tremaine, you're not getting the funds if he can't see that is your daughter.
Unless she's like embezzling funds, which she could embezzle funds, but like,
yeah, like I
it's
think
not the best plan.
It's like that deep of a plot where she's like,
we have impersonation, we have embezzlement,
yeah,
everything is on the table.
Literally identity theft. Like what she would have to do to the real Cinderella, she would have to kill her.
Yeah. Oh yeah, which reminds me, remember when she tells Lucifer to not let the mice come back alive?
It gets so dark, but it's pretty compelling, as like,
I agree.
It's like crazy, and like the fact that they're actually singing the songs. Jack and Gus are the ones who like sing to the prince and let him know about the plot. I'm like, how is it that these mice know? Why do the mice know the real tea about the plot? Like, did they evade the time jump mind wipe thing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't...
Maybe it doesn't apply to animals.
Yeah, like, did they somehow evade that? There's a lot of big questions being asked in Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time.
It's true. And there's no answer.
There's no answer
to any of them.
Because we should tell you that ultimately Anastasia is like, I can't do this. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to you. Like, I deserve real love, and so do you. And that's that.
Yeah. And so yet again, we get another personality growth arc for Anastasia while Drizella just runs around in circles.
Yeah, like, why does she get nothing? She gets nothing
She gets
in any of the movies. In the credits, the first thing you see is Anastasia and this baker guy from the second movie. Did you notice that?
Oh, yes. Wait, but maybe what the actual situation is... Wait, hold on. In the second movie, when they arrive to the castle, how soon is it?
No,
is it like
the second movie, I feel like, is the day after their wedding.
Damn. Okay.
And the third movie...
Never mind. It's a year after the third one.
Yeah.
They say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. I was going to say that maybe canonically they're out of order, but that's not true.
Yeah, no, they can't be. Yeah. They have to be wrong timing-wise.
Well, but then maybe the entire second movie was an illusion.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. Is like the second movie is not canon. Also, at the end of the third movie, when they're all like, wait, we're not in the right timeline, they just kind of like accept it.
Would you like me to return you to your former lives?
Former lives?
Why, yes. You see, you two, well, you were already... Oh, never mind.
Because it's been corrected because of Anastasia's choice. But they don't actually, like, go back, and they also don't, like, punish Lady Tremaine.
She gets turned into a frog, though.
Oh, she does?
Yes, I finished
missed
the
that.
movie, and then I rewound because I was like, wait, what happens to her, though?
Yeah. Can
she and Drizella get turned into frogs?
My final statement is Lady Tremaine actually cannot be rehabilitated. Like, she's the one.
Yeah, she's beyond.
She's the one
beyond
who,
for sure.
I mean, the lengths that she's gone to at this point, like, you should be, like, turning into a frog is, like, a proper punishment, but I fear she will still be able to meddle and commit crimes as a frog.
She'll still find a way. I totally agree with you. She could just find another wand to steal. If the mice can steal such items, I think she could do the same thing.
Yeah, like, the animals are doing very valiant things.
Yes. They are community organizers, those animals.
All of this just for Cinderella to, like, secure the bag. Like, that's really what... You think about it, that's what she's really doing. You've only known him for, like, 5 seconds, but, like, you're ready to escape your life as a scullery maid.
Absolutely. And because all of this is just a long thought exercise in how Disney could make more money off of Cinderella.
Yeah.
And they did it.
And they fully did it. And I resent it with the second movie, but I kind of am here for it with the third movie. Like, I
agree. The third movie just, like, it made a choice, and that really can't be said for a lot of these, making a strong choice. So
we can commend them for
that. Thank you for that. Would we have preferred to live in a world without the sequels? What do you think?
It's kind of hilarious now. So I don't
personally,
I feel like because not that much money was spent on them, like, it doesn't feel like such a, I mean, obviously that way they maximize profit, so it is pretty, like, gross. But when I think about, I know I keep comparing it to today, but you look at, like, how much more expensive everything is to make today, and they'll spend, like, you know, $100 million on something just so choiceless and tasteless and just the worst. Comparing it to that, I can appreciate a Cinderella III twist in time. I'm not mad. I'm really not mad.
Yeah. And I mean, this is Sleepover Cinema. We love to live in a universe where there is absurd shit like this that is targeted at little girls and that we consumed whether or not we consciously chose to as children. And I appreciate these movies for that very reason.
Last thing I'll say is watching them as a child, the stark changes in quality and tone are not something that bother you much when you are a child.
No.
Like, you're not, like, pissed about the artistry aspect so much.
No.
So that was not something that angered me as a child.
No, I don't think these have ever angered me.
No.
They've amused me or bored me.
Yeah,
and those
it's
are
one
the
of
options.
those two things.
Well, I think that sums up our thoughts on the Cinderella trilogy. It's time.
You can find more from us at evergreenpodcast.com/sleepover-cinema and keep up with our latest creative projects at tupingproductions.com. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Sleepover Cinema and post a full video version of each episode on YouTube every Thursday. You can follow me, Audrey, at Audriana Leach on everything.
And you can follow me, Hannah, at Hannah Ray Leach on everything. And as always, join our Discord server at the link in the episode description or on evergreenpodcast.com.
You can check out our merch at tupingproductions.com/shop. We have t-shirts, sweatshirts, stickers, pens, hats, etc.
Scrunchies. And if you like the show, if you and your siblings used to say hold the trumpet to each other a lot, or if for some reason you've seen Cinderella II 5,000 times, share this episode with a friend. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Sleepover Cinema is a production of Evergreen Podcasts, produced, edited, and engineered by us, Hannah and Audrey Leach. Sleepover Cinema is mixed by Sean Roll Hoffman with theme music by Josh Perlman Hall. Executive producer is Michael D'Aloia.
See ya! Hold the trumpet.